Hello, this is Gary Webster coming to you from Jerusalem in the offices of Netivyah. We will be conducting a short interview with Daniel Stern. And before we start to asking questions concerning what's happening here in the land, we'd like him to just introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Daniel Stern, and I was born in Israel 42 years ago, grew up here, went to school here, served in the army, studied political science and sociology at the Hebrew U, have been working here at Netivyah Bible Instruction Ministry for the last 12 years. And that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Daniel. So we have some questions we're going to pose to Daniel during this time that we're together. And as he responds, we'll record it and send it to you. And hopefully, if you have some feedback, you'll give it to us. So our first question, what do you think is the source of the Arab-Jew conflict, especially here in Israel?
Well, that's quite a big question. A lot of people would say that the conflict is over land, and some people would be more spiritual and say that the conflict is a religious one, a spiritual one. And that may be true, and both of those may be true. But the conflict, the Arab-Jew conflict, is about ideology, about perspective on life. There are those who favor death and control and oppression, and there are those who favor democracy and freedom and life. And the sons of Jacob, the Jews, favor democracy and equality and freedom and life, as is written in our Declaration of Independence, and as our 4,000 years of history have shown, while the sons of Ishmael are not in favor of life, but rather glorify death and glorify being a suicide martyr, a jihadist, and are controlling. And while I'm not a fan of the progressive liberal wokeness, unlike my Muslim cousins, I wouldn't be throwing homosexuals from the rooftops of Gaza in 2007 when I took over it. They are not in favor of anyone who is not them. They are, and it's an ideological difference between equality and freedom and life, and between control and darkness and death.
So basically what you're saying is that it's more like I wouldn't even say east-west, but it is Western thought versus Semitic or Middle Eastern thought, because it's maybe not in the East. China and those other places are not as anti-rights as it seems they are here. So, but it's an ideological conflict, you believe, at the root of it.
Well, let's leave the story of the Chinese Ugari conflict and the re-education camps aside, but you are correct that the Middle East conflict is certainly an ideological one between the Muslim world and the Judeo-Christian Western world.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
There was a very good article written in the late 90s called Clash of Civilizations that guesstimated, prophesied that the future wars and the next wars would indeed be between the Muslim world and the West. And we've seen this from 9/11 and onward, and obviously also before, from the 1979 Iranian Revolution, and honestly, from the 7th century, from Muhammad. But we're not going that far back just yet.
That much time. So would it be fair to say that it's not just an Arab Jew, but it's also a Judeo-Christian versus a Muslim conflict that's not going to only be focused here in Israel, but it'll spread, hopefully, throughout the rest of the Western quote unquote world?
Absolutely, anyone who has eyes in their head can see what is happening in Europe, what is happening in the New Year's parties in Germany and in Sweden, that the Arab youth are torturing and taking over and harassing the Europeans, that the anti-Semite, anti-Western ideologies are prevalent in Europe. At any of the rallies that you can go to in your city or neighborhood around the world now, the pro-Hamas, anti-Israel rallies, if you were to ask anyone in those rallies of Arab descent, if they prefer European law or Sharia law, they will all say that they want Sharia law.
Could you explain a little bit what's the difference? Sharia law, what is that?
Sharia law is the religious, theological, theocratic law that is based on the Quran and the Muslim traditions. It, of course, is very strict and very anti anyone who is not Muslim, to the point of taxation and death to anyone who is not Muslim. Best case scenario is be heavily taxed for the privilege of being allowed to live in Muslim lands, which, as far as the Muslims are concerned, is anywhere that Muslim feet have trodden. And Western law, on its many varieties, changes throughout different countries, but basically is constitutionally based or based on a tradition of courts, such as in the United Kingdoms. It has biblical roots based on either the biblical Ten Commandments and laws, or, if you wish to, the Hammurabi laws. But in theory, the difference is that one is considerably more just and fair and kind, and the other is much more oppressive to anyone who is not Muslim.